Quarantine Cast 2020. Just kidding. I'm in the studio right now, and I'm going to kind of abandon format a little bit. I do have like a specific theme that I want to talk about that is definitely related to artist life stuff, that is also timely of what's going on right now with COVID-19, because I do want to talk about inspiration through socializing, I guess. I don't really know what I'm going to call this episode yet, but basically the fact that, you know, so many people are isolated more so than before, how that affects art, how that affects your creative process, things of that nature. I will start off with some quick thoughts, just catching up with where I'm at. So I didn't get anything up for last week at all. My own like personal podcast / YouTube channel is suffering a little bit there as well. Because of COVID-19, I am not, subbing anymore because the schools are closed. Also, with that comes having to take care of a child that I didn't have to do before. I didn't have to do to that degree. I didn't have to, that wasn't my full-time, like, I don't want to call it a job. That was not how I spent, Monday to Friday. Like, it's not even a 9 to 5. It's more of, depending on the day. I mean, it's like 7 to 7 sometimes. But my girlfriend is still available to work, so she is working, and I, have effectively been laid off, I guess is what it would be. So that's just the way things are right now. With that, though, comes the struggle of studio time. While I was subbing, every once in a while, I would get a day off in the middle of the week. I wouldn't get a call. I could use that to come to the studio. And I can get some real work done there. Because, generally still, I spent a lot of time at my girlfriend's place. I'd be picking up a child from school, picking up the other one from daycare sometimes, and, making suppers, doing homework, doing all that stuff sometimes after work. On days I didn't work, it would just be like, oh, okay, well, I have to make sure I leave the studio by like 3 o'clock because I need to get to the school to pick up the kid. Like, there was still that going on. But yeah, I generally had, Sundays as being like my full day, and I'm realizing now that just isn't enough time. If I were to leave on time, it still might not be enough time. Either, like, Sunday is now the day, like, things have just changed so radically that, like, Sunday is now a day, like, I have to, it's been this way for a while, I've got to go and do laundry, I've got to, before I was also buying my personal groceries then, but laundry was the thing that I was doing, cleaning up around my house, just spending some time at home, and I can't spend enough time at home and spend enough time in the studio and complete a painting without having the full day. It's just not working. I need to leave in the morning is what I really need to do on a Sunday, and I don't know how that's going to work yet. But, I get here, and I might have a couple hours, before I have to go home for supper. And so, either I need to start packing suppers, but, if I pack suppers and stay here late, then that means I'm not getting home in time to do laundry. It's just a real struggle right now, trying to plan for art. That is just the biggest struggle. I can create in other ways, and that's still a struggle. So even finding time to write in like a little journal thing that I've had, or write anything. I started writing some fiction, and that ended up not really happening, I guess. Like I just, like, as soon as all the stuff hit, like, I just haven't been able to get enough time or space, or when I've had the tiniest bit of time, like 15 minutes to do it, I need to rest. It's almost like I just need, I don't know how to explain it. It's a whole different thing. It's a steep learning curve. I'm hoping that things settle to the point where I can get some more work done creatively. And it's not like, the child is 8, the one that I'm taking care of for the day portion of Monday to Friday. And then eventually I, majority of those days too would pick up the 3-year-old and then have to go home and then do suppers and stuff there. But I can bring her here to the studio, and I have done that. But it's still not. It's not the same. It's never the same just having anybody here. Like if I have anybody here while I'm working, it's a little different. But especially an 8-year-old who needs my attention and who can't stay here focused, entertained, independent for as long as I can't really get into a painting and just get in the zone and that's it. I can ignore an adult for the most part and they can do their own thing here. And that's happened before. And it's just not a thing that I can do right now. So I'm finding it very difficult. I feel overwhelmed, stressed, obviously anxious, a lot of different things. Like rent, studio rent is one thing. My rent in the place that I don't even sleep at anymore. Like that's the whole other thing. Just financial woes. I actually had my first purchase on Etsy in the midst of all this, and so that was nice. I came here to the studio and shipped out, got everything ready and shipped out this piece, and that was great. I had someone else commission a piece, and they're buying another one, so that's nice. A couple of people have been interested in a couple pieces, but I mean, yeah, it is. I'm trying to still maintain somewhat of a social media presence, but it's very difficult if I'm not creating stuff as to what I'm posting. But I'm still trying to post things on the buy and sell pages and get my art out there, and still trying to add to my Etsy page because it's still not done. Like I still have newer paintings that aren't up there yet, and trying to find time to do that isn't easy either. Anyway, that's where I'm at. That's like my quick update, I guess, where all this is going. Overwhelmed and stressed and not having enough time, and when I get a little bit of time, like today, I'm alone other than a shower, this is the only time I've been alone since Monday. So I don't even know, maybe since Sunday. It's been like a full week almost, short of a few hours, and this is the only really moment of alone time I've had other than being in the shower for 15 minutes. And it's not like I just jumped in here like, hell yeah, like I've got, 4 hours right now. Let's get it done. I don't even think I had 4 hours. I got here and I might have had like 3 before I have to leave for supper, and I'm choosing to record, right? Like that's the other thing. If I do want to get some recording done, then that's got to fit in there somewhere too. Oh, anyway. What I did want to talk about, and I haven't really rehearsed this in any way, shape, or form. I haven't written any notes on it, but I did want to talk about. I don't remember how I worded it from just a few minutes ago. I guess artistic communities, how they can influence people, how they can influence artists, how this might be affecting artists. I know I've mentioned this before in some capacity, probably more than once, that I really enjoy conversation. I really enjoy talking. I get a lot of ideas from that, and I really enjoy in-person conversations more than anything. But I mean, if it has to be over the phone, then it's over the phone, and like whatever. One-sided conversations aren't as great when it comes to getting inspiration. There's just not a lot of back and forth that allows for like exploring ideas the same way. I do gain different perspectives sometimes just by talking things out myself or by listening to someone else talk to themselves, just the way I am now, either through a YouTube video or through a podcast or whatever. I definitely do get inspiration, but it's obviously not the same. It's just not the same dynamic. The conversation aspect of two people, at times even being at odds or having different perspectives in real time and being able to share those with each other and really deep dive, that's just not a thing that happens. That's a thing that really pushes me a lot. And sometimes that happens digitally. Like I have a Facebook group, like a chat group with friends, and that's available to us. It's not the same as like being in real time and talking, because that's just the best option when it's available. But that is not available to a lot of people right now. And even when it was available, more so before COVID-19, it still wasn't something that I was engaging with much anymore because of lack of, I guess, friends in the city that were also artistically inclined. And although my partner is artistically inclined, we have so much more on our plate. It feels like we can't even have those conversations a lot of the time unless we're working on something. And that's the other thing, I guess, that would be part of that update that I should have mentioned, that all these exhibitions and stuff that she had, like her first line of exhibitions and opportunities to show work, have all been postponed now. and we had an exhibition we were going to work on together, and now I can't even work on that anymore because we really need to focus on saving money because I have no income whatsoever right now. So unless it's selling art, I mean that's really my only income, and that's obviously very hit and miss and inconsistent and not up to me. But anyway, that's just a backtrack to this whole thing, is that I completely forgot about that those things were not happening anymore, this collaborative work that we were doing. But those are the only times that we really have talked about art, because we felt like we had to, because we're getting things together and organized for an event. And yeah, we just have other things to talk about so much that it seems like art gets put on the back burner sometimes. And yeah, just other priorities with kids stuff, with family things, with now finances, now all this stuff. What are we going to do to... It's... I get more overwhelmed now. I've only been away from, the house for a couple hours, and I feel like I'm getting more and more overwhelmed. Yeah, this is a very different episode, but that's just the way it has to be. Anyway, I just haven't had a lot of opportunity, or haven't made a lot of opportunity to have these artistic conversations that I used to have multiple times a week. And there's part of that is on me and not reaching out to certain people as much as I could, but it's also because I need some alone time, and I don't know what I need sometimes. I just am flying by the seat of my pants, it seems, which is very much not like me, but I feel forced into that with the current climate of the world, I guess, and Canada and Alberta and where I'm at. So I really do miss those creative conversations that I've had with people in the past. When they were frequent, it really was inspiring. Now there's other things that I do to, if I want to talk about getting inspired in that aspect. I mean, like reading art magazines is one thing, listening to podcasts that are, I've got art-focused podcasts I listen to. Watching movies in general sometimes really sparks some creative ideas. Reading books definitely sparks a lot of creativity for me. But again, those are all very different things. And it's like consuming media in general will eventually spark something for me to respond to. But the way that I would respond to it is by exploring that topic by creating. So, in the midst of creating something is how I would respond to that topic, explore that topic, delve into it further. But it is... What I'm missing is exploring that topic with somebody else in real time, the back and forth, and then from that conversation, maybe sharing or expressing anything I've learned. And sometimes I learn that I have more questions, right? That's definitely something that happens. But it's like there's this step in between that I don't have anymore, which is where we can go back and forth, and again, I learn things and maybe come to some conclusions that inspire me to express an answer. Whereas other times I feel like I've been introduced to ideas or feelings from consuming media, and by doing that, or like by consuming that, I am trying to find answers in the work, by creating the work, trying to resolve feelings by creating the work. So there's this other step that it's not like it always has to go in these not three steps, but like go in the step of talking to people first, not at all. But it was just a different approach, a different opportunity that led to different works being created, I guess, is how it would be. I really think that artist communities are super important. It looks different for everybody. There's some people that have, art collectives. That's a very, that's one type of artist community inside of another artist community. I feel like sometimes you're lumped into an artist community even though you don't feel a sense of community. I, live in Lethbridge, which is a very small city, and I feel like I'm part of the artist community, but I don't feel like it. So therefore, am I? I don't know. There's very few other artists that I connect with, that I talk to, that I engage with in any manner, or that I even know. And it's not that I don't engage with people for lack of wanting to or liking these individuals or what have you. Like there's a lot of people I just don't know. Being very introverted, I haven't put myself out there very much and stuff like that. But I would get lumped into a community there. I mean, there's communities within communities. When you've got, let's say Lethbridge is one artist community, it doesn't necessarily mean we're feeding off each other's work. Sometimes, just off of Instagram, like I have many local artists that I follow there, or I see their work here up in different locations around the city, or in exhibitions, or what have you, pieces for sale in stores and in restaurants, and I can see their work in person, and that is, I don't know, that's part of an artist community in a way where I get to, but I see the work as a member of the general public. It's not like I have a real conversation with that person about the work by just viewing it. It's not artist to artist in that aspect. It's more of like artist to viewer, and the viewer being anybody. And I'm a fan as much as anyone else is, whether I'm an artist or not. But university programs, you have a smaller community, people in your class that you may get to know, etc. Even when I was in university, I didn't really connect with many people there, and so those conversations were difficult. They were so invaluable, and I didn't know it then because I wasn't having them. My professor, my instructors, those were where those conversations happened, and they really were great sometimes at pushing those conversations and exploring topics with the class as a whole. I feel like when you get into those senior art classes, or even the other art classes, any art class period, that to me is the most valuable thing you can do, is talk about the concepts and explore them and figure out the intention and purpose behind behind everything, behind why someone did something the way they did to create a certain thing they wanted to invoke. All of that is really important, and that is just found through discussion. Not necessarily from someone just explaining it, but asking the right questions to get them to explain certain things they may not have even thought of. So those were invaluable things that I didn't really have a lot of in university, and I know a lot of other people did have those things, those conversations, and I just didn't really that much. And when I started to have them after university, they blew me away. And I across disciplines, having a discussion with someone who primarily their art form is being a writer, a fiction writer, they don't really participate in visual art that much, and whereas I'm the other way around, that's still invaluable. Like just talking to an artist in general, it's one of the best ways I think to grow as an artist is by exchanging ideas with other artists, exchanging, talking about your own process, letting them talk about theirs, and having questions about things. To me, that's like one of the best ways to learn and grow as an artist, to continue and further and push your artistic practice just simply by having these conversations and being able to reflect in a different way. It's just such a different method of reflection than you just sitting by yourself looking at your own work and being like, I don't know. And I don't know how many people do that. Some people might do journal writing after they make pieces, or just in their daily life and the work that they create and whatever else is a part of that. But I generally don't do that way. And even if I did, it's a whole different method. I really think that having an artist community that you can have a conversation with, or even if it's just one other person, sometimes that's literally twice as many people as not talking to anybody. Just talking to yourself, like I'm doing right now. Having that back and forth is just so essential, I feel, to driving you to reflect on things in such a way that you can't by simply reading about it in an art magazine. I do that, and it does help sometimes. I'm like, oh wow, I never really thought of it that way. That's really great. But I would often, if I was having that conversation with someone if someone in person said that, I'm sure I'd have a question or a comment, and there would be, and we would end up somewhere completely different than where the interviewer ended up with, the artist that they're interviewing. Anyway, this is just a weird little rant. I wanted to get something in because I do have a little time right now. So again, this is really abandoning format in a lot of ways, and I feel just like overwhelmed and stressed and weird. So it's not the most energetic and spirited episode I've done. We can say that much. But I really do appreciate those artistic conversations in general. Again, are just the bee's knees and the cat's pajamas. I don't really think I've ever taken them for granted. I've just found them, now I'm saying like, oh wow, I really should have, appreciated them more then, I guess. But no, I've always appreciated them once I learned what they did for me. And that was years ago that I was like, you know what? talking really helps. Like, talking out loud helps me more than writing to myself or just thinking these thoughts. That helps too. But definitely talking with other people is so invaluable. I didn't realize this whole. If I want to go back to that term, external processor. I mean, yes, I learn things while I am creating. I learn things by responding to what I'm feeling through creating visual art or by writing it down, but also by just expressing in general, that external processing, by expressing it in general and getting it out of me, even if it's just with words out loud, gives me an opportunity to really understand what it is I'm feeling. I don't really know what else to say about this. I mean, it definitely is more lonely, and I feel that, even though, like I said, it's been a while since I've had somebody regularly to talk about art to in this way that I used to, or that we just did. Like, and there's people, like I said, I have friends that I can phone and we can talk, and I just don't do it, and like, it just doesn't really happen as much. But I'm used to that part of it, but I'm still, like, the energy, I just don't feel like, man, this is why I love cities like Vancouver. Like big cities, I get this energized just feeling of being around by walking around, taking a sky train, or just exploring the area, and people are busy. And for some reason, that really drives me creatively. I end up taking way more photos when I'm in an area like that because I'm so inspired by human activity and all kinds of it. I mean, like, some people are probably aimless, and some people are very driven and have a very specific destination. And all of it just seems to drive a certain I wish that I lived in a big city like that, and then if I just took a SkyTrain or a bike ride or something to or maybe not a bike ride, because that's not as passive. I need to be somewhere where I can really be a part of the journey and not really making my own journey, but, like, you know, being on public transportation, being able to see all these different people come together, going towards these destinations. Or something about that. If I could just take that right to the studio, I wonder what I would create. Because so much of the time, you know, when I was visiting Vancouver, and I was there for, I think, 5 days last time I was there, it was a lot of, I didn't have a space to create visual art, so that's another reason I took so many photos. But also, while I was out, I just felt so inspired and so creative. And I don't remember, oh, that's why I brought it up, because even here, like in Lethbridge, it's so small, and because I'm not taking public transit, because I'm not in like a university setting or some place where there's so many motivated, driven, energetic, you know, creative minds and whatever, I don't really get that by being in a small city at all. But, man, the lack of people is still jarring because of this. Just the lack of life that exists outside. I understand the necessity of it completely. And I don't even know. I mean, I haven't talked to my camera in this way, like sitting down, for so long. That's why I keep looking everywhere else, because I'm so awkward now. Even from the short time away from the camera, it feels weird to do this. I'm already just not used to it and distant. But yeah, the lack of life on the streets, the lack of vehicles, the lack of people in vehicles, the lack of people, the lack of signs of humanity is so obvious. It gives me an opportunity to go and connect with nature a little more. I mean, weather dependent, but that's nice. I shouldn't say the lack of people gives me that opportunity. That has nothing to do with it. It's, if I'm drawing everything back to COVID-19, I mean, not being at work, you know, has given me time during the weekdays to go out on hikes with the child. And that's been great, but it's still just like, I don't know. It was too busy at times to feel overwhelmed until it was like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were really not great days. And so it just, yeah, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I don't really remember anymore, weren't great days. Definitely Friday, Saturday, and so today, now that I'm alone, everything is sinking in, and yeah, I don't know, I miss people. I like, you know, just having more conversation in my life, especially things that fuel me creatively, but also just seeing, like I keep looking out the window and there's barely any vehicles. I had to go to Shoppers earlier and the parking lot for the mall is just dead. Again, I see the necessity for it. I wouldn't change it. It's just like, wow, like not being exposed to diverse groups of people is interesting because as a sub, I'm exposed to different groups of people all the time. Not necessarily in a way that fuels my creativity, but I mean, at least I'm exposed to different things and scenarios every day. If I was working at a school, I would still be exposed to such a large group of people. It's not like working in a small office where you're around the same 3 people every day. And then I just imagine, like, I have such a lack of a social life that, you know, at work I would be seeing. Again, it's not like I'm chatting people up there all the time and having these great, amazing conversations or any conversations. Holy smokes, I'm ranting so bad. I don't know. It's just this whole thing is making me reflect on the importance of having artistic, creative friends and having conversations with them, having conversations with different people in general, expressing ideas, and just having a diverse group of people to talk to, especially in person. Because now that I'm alone in this room, I'm feeling super weird. When I knew that I was like craving this, but not having anyone around now is weird because it's just odd. I needed this, or I thought I did, and now that I'm here, everything's just caving in. So that's my artist life this week.